Sure. And I guess the advantage really depends on who you are. I mean, I used to work for investment bank, and that was actually building and running its own data centers, multiple data centers. We had to go and visit some of them sometimes, and you kind of get a glimpse into what it takes to run data centers and the cooling and all of that. But that those are significant investment. And early in the cloud, people talk about the whole idea of OPEX versus CAPEX, so operational expenditure model versus the capital expenditure model. So if you're like a multi-billion-dollar multinational conglomerate, you can spend hundreds of millions on building your own data center and all of that. But for a lot of small companies, you just don't have the investment to be able to do that, right? But with the cloud, you now don't have to have the capital expenditure to be able to invest into infrastructure like that, and yet you can compete with the biggest of companies out there because you have the full capacity that Amazon is able to offer you. So that in terms that ability to be able to compete at a much higher level without a significant investment upfront is probably the biggest advantage for, I guess, in terms of leveling the playing field and creating more competitive marketplace. And I think that has even improved even more with the introduction of serverless technologies, whereby not just in terms of the infrastructure cost, but also in terms of the skill set that's required to build some of these applications that can scale to support millions of users and still have high availability, have be able to have the rights, have the security in place. So a lot of that has been commoditized by using things like Lambda, using databases like DynamoDB, where you just have an API, and the API itself is secured by IAM. You don't have to worry about scaling the underlying storage units. You don't have to worry about scaling the API layer. It's all done for you, and you've got multi-AZ out of the box. So in terms of being able to get things done quickly, and still be able to build something that is just as scalable and probably even more reliable than, say, your big banks and the other companies who have this really deep pocket that can build their own infrastructure. And people talk about the clouds, whenever it goes down, or Amazon having an outage, everyone is having an issue because it's very publicly visible. Like Netflix is down because Amazon is down, and or any number of services that you use, like Spotify and all these other services everybody use, is having a problem because Amazon is having an outage. But what you don't notice and you probably don't hear about is that whenever, say, a data center having problem that affects a single bank. I was working in Credit Suisse before, and the amount of times networking just goes down with a data center, and you waste a couple of days, maybe sometimes. It happens all the time, but no one talks about it because it's not publicly visible. At least it's not, at least not for the general public. It's certainly a lot of customers are complaining when the Credit Suisse data center is down, or when one of the big banks is having outages in their data centers. But they happen way more often than compared to the big outages that you see with Amazon, with Google, and so on. So reliability is a big win when it comes to cloud and the scalability as well.